Welcome back. It's the guy we call W2, Will Worsham. Yes, he joins us now for this week's Speaking Legal Discussion. Good to see you again.
Hi,
Thank
Will. Good to see you.
That was new.
That's the first time I called you.
It was.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Whoop, there you go.
Never
Ready
know
for
when
this
that's
one?
gonna happen.
Sure,
All
why
right.
not?
When I was arrested for DWI, I took a breath test. My friends are telling me I should have refused, but the officer made it sound like that wasn't an option. Could I have refused, and would that have helped my case?
Okay, well, this is an interesting question because the law and procedures have kind of changed recently. In fact, we talked about that a few months ago about Greene County and Christian County becoming what they call no refusal counties, where to answer the question, absolutely you have the right to refuse to take a breath test. And what that used to mean is you would refuse and they say, okay, we won't take your breath test, but they've given you implied consent warnings before that. You're under arrest for driving while intoxicated. I have probable cause to believe you're operating a motor vehicle while intoxicated, and because of that, I'm requesting you provide a sample of your breath to determine the alcohol content of your blood. If you refuse, evidence of the refusal can be used against you in a court of law, and your license will be automatically and immediately revoked for 1 year. And so that was the implied consent warnings, and people would make a decision. Do I want to take the test and avoid those consequences, although maybe face some other consequences, or do I want to refuse the test? That used to be your choice. Now in Greene County now, they actually will read you another warning that says, and if you refuse, I will get a search warrant from a judge to obtain a sample of your blood.
Right.
Wow.
So they'll actually take a blood sample and then send that off for analysis if you refuse to provide a breath sample. So the question nowadays is a little interesting. Can you refuse? Yes, but the consequences are you're probably, at least if you're in Greene County or Christian County, going to have a blood sample taken. Some people don't like that.
Not to mention you're going to lose your license. Is that what you just said?
Yeah, and if you refuse, and you know that's a little sticky too because this is a new procedure. It hasn't gone up to the Court of Appeals. We've not appealed it, but if you refuse, then yes, the law says your driver's license is going to be revoked for a year. But if your blood is tested and you're arrested for driving while intoxicated and it was over the limit, then your license is suspended for that. So that used to be the choice. It was a 1-year revocation, but on a first offense, if you took a breath test and it was over the limit, you were looking at a 90-day suspension. And generally speaking, in either scenario, you were going to get charged with driving while intoxicated because the officer, by the time they've arrested you, has already determined they have probable cause. Probable cause is a standard that the prosecutor needs to file the criminal case.
You know, it sounds like it's a no-win situation.
Right.
You may as well, take the breathalyzer test because they're going to get results one way or another.
Well, and, here's where I always start. If you're not intoxicated, by all means, take the test.
Oh, yes.
Right, exactly.
Prove it. I mean, occasionally you run across people that said, I hadn't been drinking, but I refused because I didn't trust the test. Ugh. That kind of hurts because you could have taken
You could have saved a lot of misery.
Everybody could have saved a lot of misery. But yeah, the way it's operating right now, and that's exactly the way it was intended, is that you don't have the right, essentially, to refuse. Now, there's a
probable cause involved.
Well, there's a lot of constitutional issues that are going to come up with this, particularly for folks, if someone out and out refuses, and then the officer believes they have sufficient probable cause to get a search warrant, and a prosecutor files the application, and a judge agrees, then we followed all the constitutional processes.
Right.
But I really think that there may be a problem with someone that says, golly gee, I really don't want to give this breath test, but I'm afraid of needles.
Yeah,
and so
they're taking something from
so
you.
if you're gonna, if I refuse, you're telling me if I refuse to give you this breath sample, you're gonna stick me with a needle, then I'll just give you the breath test.
Right.
I'm not sure that's not coerced.
That is to be determined.
And we've got to take that up on appeal at some point when we have the right case.
But it seems like you're guilty if you, like you said, if you just refuse to take it. Because if you're innocent, what's the big deal?
Well, that's the argument that the prosecutors are going to try to make. Of course, we make different arguments if we're defending folks of something
why
like
were you
that.
running from that crime if you didn't do it,
Well, and there's case law on that issue too. But the issue there is you have a right to refuse. You don't have to. It's the Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination.
Right.
And so, in this one limited area, we've carved out this exemption and says we are going to use this against you.
To incriminate, right?
And the courts have decided that that's okay, whether we agree with it or not. That's the law.
Is it a good idea if you have your faculties about you to say, just a moment, officer, and call your lawyer?
And you have every right to do that. In fact, you have 20 minutes to contact an attorney.
Okay, so you don't have to say anything or agree to anything.
Yeah, you have 20 minutes to try to contact an attorney to make a decision as to whether or not you want to take that test.
Of
That's
course,
good to
best
know.
idea is do not drive drunk.
There you go.
Absolutely.
We can fix both problems that way.
Right on.
Right. Thanks,
All right.
Will.
You're
Well,
welcome.
Thank you much. If you have a legal question for Will, you can email him at wworsham@color10.com, and he will answer your question on the show. Thanks again, Will.
You're welcome.
Coming up, we're going to introduce you to a few more apps during our What's Happening segment, so stay with us.
Ozarks 140 on ozarksfirst.com. Click sections, then Ozarks 140. Check out continuous Twitter feeds from Color 10 News plus other local and national news tweets. Keep this page on your computer all day long. Ozarks 140.
Buongiorno. I'm Kelly Smith, inviting Color 10 and KOZL viewers to join me on a tour to Tuscany and the Italian Riviera. We'll tour Tuscany, including Florence, the birthplace of the Renaissance, and enjoy train and boat tours in the scenic Italian Riviera. Highlights include the famous Leaning Tower of Pisa and a private wine tasting at the Castello di Verrazzano. For a free brochure, call Holiday Vacations at 1-800-826